while in custody, being tattooed by an older gang member who ended up being a government informant. And so due to essentially the actions that someone has taken while being an agent of the United States, Walter now has permanent markings on his body that make him, that endanger his life should he return to El Salvador. So he presented that case to the immigration judge and he won, except immigration law is nuts. And so even when you win, normally the person who wins sort of gets the benefit of having prevailed. But in what I sometimes call upside down land, even if you win, if you're the immigrant and you win and DHS decides to appeal, you stay in to allow them an opportunity to appeal. So Walter stayed in custody for over a year. And when the appellate court, the Board of Immigration Appeals, issued their decision, rather than make a final decision on his case, they remanded it. They sent it back to the immigration judge on a technicality. I'm going to spare your listeners what that exact technicality was, but it was a technicality. And when they sent it back down, the immigration judge who had granted his case was now gone. Actually, a lot of immigration judges left the court, the San Francisco Immigration Court, right around then, 2018, 2019. And so that judge was gone. Another judge stepped in, and that judge actually re-granted Walter's case based on the findings of the first judge. So the second judge used those findings and said, yeah, Walter is more likely than not to be tortured in El Salvador. Can you guess what DHS did after that, Jason?
And they went ahead and said, F it.
They appealed again. Yeah, they were like, okay, you won again, we'll appeal again. And same thing. They appeal. It's not final. You stay in custody. So Walter stayed in custody for another year. And that decision came in July. So a couple months ago, we received a decision that shockingly sent it back, but this time not even to cure a technicality. The court just sent it back and said, just do the whole thing over again. And that is something that I've done this work. I've done deportation defense work for about 15 years, and I've never seen anything like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and do something that I don't normally do because I do not know the game of basketball, but I'm gonna borrow a beautiful analogy. I told somebody what had happened, and they were like, that's like if LeBron James had made a shot and Anthony Davis. No, you know what? I'm messed up. Let me start again. See? I don't do basketball analogies. Like, I don't do that.
Is there any sport that you do an analogy?
No, there's no sport. There's no sport. Okay, here we go. Stay with me. Are you ready?
I'm here. I'm ready.
Sure? Okay. There's a game, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And someone shoots a basket and in. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Are you laughing because I said basket and not a ball?
No, I'm just laughing at the oversimplification of the analogy.
I feel like we're getting somewhere, though. Okay, so
baskets have been shot.
The shot goes in, and we know that it was either LeBron James or Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. And if rather than say, hey, they're members of the same team, so the Lakers win, the refs, you know what, we can't tell who shot it, and so just do the game all over again. That doesn't make sense because we know the Lakers won. And that's sort of exactly what happened with Walter. What has been clear twice now is that he has shown that he's more likely than not to be tortured in El Salvador. And when you make that very, very difficult showing in immigration court, you're supposed to be protected under domestic and international law. And so there's a need to do the game over again. Why do we need to do the game over again? Usually that happens if somebody fouls or someone makes a mistake. And in this case, nothing like that happened. And the crazy part is this is not a game. This is a man who's waited over 3 years to have some finality to his case, to have some resolution, to have some idea of when he walks out of that detention center, Is it going to be to get on a plane to leave this country? Or is it going to be to end up back in San Francisco or Oakland? Where's he going to be? And that sort of indefiniteness of immigration detention is what makes immigration detention so psychologically terrorizing, is that it's not a sentence. It's not a period of time that you can wrap your head around. It's not a period of time that you can tell your family at the end of this 3 months, I will be home. Or even at the end of this 3 years, I will be home. I can't tell Walter as his attorney when he's going to be home, if he's going to be home, and where home is, right? And that's really incredible when you think about it.
And does this have a lot to do with that NDAA from 2012? Like, you can be held indefinitely?
That gets
or is this more like Patriot Act kind of?
This is actually, it's funny. This is actually really, truly basic immigration law. I mean, they're certainly they are related, but this is sort of how it's always been. We the United States can civilly detain you while we figure out whether or not to deport you. And because we the United States, cleverly classify that detention as civil, it doesn't have the protections, the minimum protections that people have when their incarceration as criminals. When you're in criminal custody, you have the right to an appointed lawyer if you can't afford one. Under criminal laws, we have statutes of limitations. For most crimes, you can't just be dragged into custody years after an alleged offense takes place. There's a period of time in which the government has to act. And if it doesn't act in that time, then that period is over. We have Eighth Amendment protections against cruel and unusual punishment, right? The punishment has to fit the crime. There has to be some sort of proportionality of how long we can imprison you based on the conduct, right? So you have all these protections that when you take the criminal, I'm putting criminal in quotes here, the criminal classification out and you replace it with civil, those protections are gone. Why? Because it's civil and we're not punishing you. And so that's just to pause here for a moment. That's pretty intense to put somebody behind bars, shackle them, take them away from their family members, place them in custody subject to the same type of things that happen in custody when you're in criminal custody, and then tell someone, oh wait, but don't worry about it because this is not, I know it feels just like jail. I know it feels just like prison, but that's not what we're doing to you. You're just in civil custody until we figure out whether or not to deport you.
To hear the rest of this show and more, you can find us at This is Revolution Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, Pandora, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Also, a new episode of our live stream airs on the Zero Books YouTube channel every Wednesday. This is Revolution.